So there's a bug right now with the General Liu rifle, that if you equip the rifle grenade, you can fire off 6 grenades instead of 1. As you can probably make out, it's quite infuriating to be on the receiving end of. But moving on from that, I've been on the CTE and I want to bring you a bit of news from the front, as it were. So starting off, aside from the 8 and possibly 16 new weapon variants, we're going to be getting 6 new guns. These are 2 versions of the first iteration of the Thompson Smg, a new BAR variant which will have a fast fire mode, a Fedorov Avtomat with a Hellriegel style water-cooled jacket, a Mosin Nagant Carbine. This rifle actually wasn't produced until 1938, which is interesting. The Winchester Burton LMG. This looks cool with its top-loading V-shaped magazines, and rounding it all out is the Colt single-action army revolver. This is also reminiscent of the Weapons Pack DLC for Battlefield 4, which also added several new weapons to all players for that game. The main difference being that this time there may well be 22 new weapons to unlock. I mentioned that the inclusion of the Mosin Nagant Carbine was interesting. It's a weapon from 20 years after World War I ended after all, and the same can be said for the 2 Thompson variants and the BAR with the fast fire option. These are all World War II weapons, or are at least better associated with World War II. Battlefield Hardline's final DLC included the 1903 Springfield and a Lewis gun, and spoiler alert, the Battlefield game that came after that was set in World War I, so I wouldn't be too surprised if this is DICE hinting that the next game is going to be set in the war that came right after the war to end all wars. There is a strong argument that it won't be World War II. Do DICE really want to release 2 games with a similar historical setting and with similar weapon mechanics and gameplay right after each other? Probably not from a creative standpoint, but we'll soon find out. On to what we do know, there have been a few things added to the CTE. Firstly, the General Liu rifle is having its bolt action option brought back. As I recall, the Liu rifle originally had its bolt action option when it was being tested before In the Name of the Tsar was released, but it never made it into the full game. Back then though, choosing the bolt action option didn't make sense as it offered no advantage. Now though, selecting bolt action buffs your damage to 72 like a normal sniper rifle. This means that the Liu rifle is the only one-shot kill medic rifle and arguably the most versatile. Getting kills with the bolt action option can be very satisfying. I've wanted a bolt action medic rifle for the medic class for a while now. I actually remember playing the beta way back, thinking it would be something that would be cool to add, and it's cool to see that particular wish has come true. The other weapon change is the inclusion of the 1903 Infantry. The 03 Infantry serves as the alternate fire option for the 03 Experimental, so you can't actually equip it in your primary slot and quickly switch to your secondary. I don't do too well with this gun, which is a bit of an understatement, if I'm honest. The sweet spot is the same at 100 meters, and the iron sights themselves aren't the clearest in my opinion. As I say, I may not be the greatest, but there's certainly going to be players out there who are going to get some great moments with this gun. Whilst I'm on the subject of snipers, there's also a few changes to the sweet spot mechanic. There will now be a rainbow effect appear, as well as the usual scope glint, to let you know that you're in that player's sweet spot range. Similarly, there is now a function to have a depth of field effect on the scope when you're using a sniper or marksman rifle to let you know when your target is in your sweet spot range. Now, I like the rainbow effect, but the depth of field effect, I'm not sure if I'm keen on. Yes, you can disable it, so what am I crying about? But I just think it's a bit too late in the game to be adding these things. Unless it's an indicator that the next game will also feature the sweet spot mechanic, and these late additions are some form of playtesting the mechanics for that game. The third and final thing I want to talk about is the new mode that is currently live for testing, and that is shock operations. Essentially, these are single map operations that will be available on maps that don't currently feature operations. So far I've only played on the Somme and Prise des Taheux, but it will also be available for testing on Giant Shadow, Lupkow Pass and Zeebrugge. This is a 40 player mode which gives me memories of 40 player operations at the game's launch, Now, even in its current state, it still feels very balanced and is a very refreshing experience, as the 40-player count gives you room to maneuver and think tactically. Playing this mode on the sub-map gives me a new appreciation of how good this map actually is. Conquest Assault does this map no favours, so it's nice to play on a mode that lets this map shine. The rounds I played on Prise de Tahoe were also enjoyable, but as an attacker, we did find it tricky to take the final sector. This could be for a number of reasons, but I think it's a mix between the rifle grenade bug, making it hard to stay alive, and the trench raider kit available to the defending team has a lot of cover being an urban environment, so trench raiders are a bit OP on Tahoe. I provided that feedback in the questionnaire, which in truth is the only somewhat negative feelings I have towards my time on the server. As I previously said, Shock Operations is a refreshing new mode for BF1. It's not a fluster-cookie spam fest, and it gives you space and opportunities to take on the enemy on your terms. Shock Operations and the new weapons will be part of the final BF1 update in June. My birthday happens to be in June, so happy birthday me. I look forward to playing this mode some more and unlocking all those new guns. And that brings us to the end of the video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, then by all means leave me a like and a comment. If you didn't, by all means dislike. Subscribe to make my day, and I'll see you in the next one.